Thank you. How you doing, Rusty? How you doing, Rusty?
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me? We can't hear you, sir. Let me see. say something, Mr. Mayor?
Testing, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can hear you well.
All right.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. I want to call this meeting to order. It is Wednesday, February 23rd, approximately 12 noon. I will be calling roll call. Co-chair Lupita Cepeda,
Present.
Judge Mercurio Martinez,
Present.
Jorge J.D. Delgado,
Present.
and myself, Esteban Angel, present. We have a quorum. Item number 3, Dr. Marisela.
Yes, Marisela Tijerina for the record. I will defer this to Mr. Cepeda, who will be presenting on the HVAC repairs for the chapel.
Director of Plan Operations and Maintenance, for the record. This particular item is to repair the HVAC system at the chapel. The chapel had the same system that most of the buildings have, water-based. And so and they're in the attic, and there's no insulation from the elements in the attic, so I think that the freeze in February kind of started the decline of that system. And when we started running it several months later in September, one of their core and the handlers blew, so we had water come down on all of us. So we're proposing to actually remove the chiller water based HVAC units from the attic and replace them with refrigerant based, so we can avoid the potential freeze up and other occurrence that now we have to repair not only the air handler system but the flooring. So we don't want to, and the buy board proposal from Train is $228,000, $150,000. It's not a kind of a cheap solution, but we've got to do it. But if we would have replaced the water-based, we would. My idea at first was to put all of their handlers in the basement, but then we would have had to change all of the ducting and everything. And so we said, you know what? Why don't we just do conventional HVAC systems to do the same thing, and then we won't have a water issue in the future. So,
Mr. Spat, and it's also going to be in the attic.
order.
The new system, it's also going to be in the attic, or are we
Yeah,
rerouting?
that's the whole purpose.
Okay.
We're gonna put the units exactly where the other ones were. We're gonna cap off the water, the water lines that go up to the attic.
Okay.
From the chiller system we have all over the campus, and we're gonna replace them with just conventional. That way we can use the same mounting area and the same ducting. We won't change anything. I mean, the pricing that was coming in for moving the chiller-based air handler to the basement was ridiculous. It was like more than twice this. So we're gonna be doing the same thing. It's
Now on this one, we did touch on it's gonna get paid by the insurance, right? And is it gonna be 100%, the 228, or are we just a certain percentage of the insurance is only gonna cover it?
Good afternoon, Cesar Vela, VP of Finance for the record. Yes, we are going to be submitting this as part of the claim. Actually, right now, our risk manager is still working on getting all the costs in. Now, as Mr. Cepeda mentioned, in order for us to have replaced the system as it was gonna be a lot more costly. So the insurance company obviously was only gonna cover to replace it to the point that we had it, right? So the idea was to move those air handlers down to the basement to avoid future issues with the water lines, but they were not gonna pay for that difference. With this option here, we should be able to cover the cost 100%, again, minus the deductibles, and once all that is worked out. Again, we're still working, because aside from the air handlers and the HVAC system getting damaged, we also have water damage on the floors, and obviously, we did have some wall that were damaged. So once we calculate all those costs, the cleanup and everything, they'll apply the deductible and then pay for whatever.
So they will also be covering those damages, the insurance.
Yes, all those claims are gonna be submitted, all the costs, the cleanup, the cost of the cleanup, and obviously to repair the floors, the wood floors in that area. Again,
And, we're gonna repair the floors and the walls, so you know, we're gonna wait till we finish the repair of the HVAC system, because they're gonna be probably doing some damage to walls and things like that. So we're gonna repair the flooring and the wall. There's, I'll show you, there's some pictures here
Okay.
that the shiny wall, the shiny floor is actually water. So, and then you see blistering on the walls, and there's all sorts of damage. So we're gonna wait till we finish the HVAC repair, then we're gonna move in, so we won't have to redo some stuff that we might have to do with the HVAC repair. So that's what we're proposing to do.
Chair recognizes Mr. Delgado.
Mr. Cepeda, what's the anticipated completion date on this?
Good question. Being that we've got to put, systems outside as well, because this is now unconventional air conditioning. I think we can probably do it within 2 months, once we get the approval. We're kind of ready to go. It's not a big deal, but hopefully we won't run into any challenges in getting the systems up, because it's very limited how they must have built the system, then put the roof on, but it's like there's a chute, that goes up there that you can barely take stuff out, So bearing any unforeseen complications, we think that we can do it within 2 months, I think. So.
Question, I think I asked this question last building meeting. Are we gonna go with wood floors again, or are we going with a different type of flooring?
Well, I think that the feature of that building was the antiquity of it.
Well, I mean, I think that's the reason why I'm bringing it up, because, I mean.
I'd like to do wood floors,
Well,
put it that way.
And my question is, would the insurance bring it up to par to how it was with wood flooring? Would you know, Mr. Rivera?
So far, the discussions that I've had with with Mr. Cano, risk manager, obviously, there's an assessment, and the adjuster has to come in and do an appraisal of the damages. Obviously, the information has been submitted already with pictures. My understanding is that they'll do that assessment and calculate all the costs for the damages. Obviously, factor in the deductible. And also there is a depreciation component, especially on the HVAC equipment that's taken into account. But again, the claim will include the replacement of those floors. Again, I can't give you an exact number as to how much it's gonna cost and how much it's gonna be covered. Obviously, like I said, we do have to factor in the deductible, which I believe for water damage, we had at 50,000. And then anything above that, then it will be covered by the insurance. Obviously, they'll factor in the depreciation on some of the equipment.
And by when would you anticipate getting this information from the insurance?
That's a good question. I will need to follow up with Mr. Cano to see, I know that one of the missing parts was getting the adjuster to come in. I believe he was working on getting, scheduling that. But I'll follow up and we'll give you an update at the Thursday meeting
Okay,
on that.
yeah, if you can, please, and then let us know. I guess maybe not, maybe Thursday, you could give us by when, but then also, you know, if we're gonna be able to restore it, I guess is my main question to how it looked, you know, to looking with wood floors. And if not, I guess, I don't know if the board's gonna want to invest money or keep it just with the monies that we got from the insurance and go with tile or carpet or whatever we would want to.
Yeah, so this item, I guess once we get, again, Mr. Cepeda mentioned, the first step is getting the HVAC equipment replaced. When we get the actual cost of the additional repairs that are needed, those are gonna be brought back to the board, because there will be over 50,000. So obviously that approval will need to be given by the board. At that time, if the board decides, you know what, we may not want to invest the cost of maybe replacing the wood floors, and we can explore other options. But again, the item will come back to the board for approval.
Mr.
Chair.
Chairman.
Chair, Chair recognizes President Cepeda. I would.
Just one quick question. What is our deductible?
For water damage, I believe it's 50,000.
50,000?
Yeah, it's a little bit higher for wind damage, but for water damage, I believe it was 50,000.
What about the HVAC system? What is that deductible? The same 50?
I'm sorry, the HVAC?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, the damage that's being covered is the water, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Chair recognizes Judge Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We must recognize that the chapel is a historical facility, it's a historical building. And if we're going to do any improvements, they have to be done with the manner in which it is identified as historical rather than as I think you've alluded to the fact of the floor actually being changed. And I think that that ought not to be the case. We ought to bring it, keep it as it is. I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, that would not be my preference to change.
Thank
the
you.
flooring.
Thank you. But with that being the case, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this repair as being presented by Mr. Cepeda.
I don't think we can, is it a motion?
We can't take a motion
We can't
because
take,
this is the committee meeting.
we can't take any action. due to
No,
the
no
lack of
action.
quorum.
I guess whenever, following up with what Judge Martinez is saying, whenever this comes to the board, I guess we could vote on it, Judge, and then there we could, I guess once Mr. Vela comes in with numbers of the insurance deductible, and then how much they're gonna give us for flooring and everything, and then probably they're not gonna give us the 100%, but whatever extra monies are gonna be needed to be able to restore it back to its historical stage, then that's where we could probably make a motion to approve, Judge. And then hopefully by then, Mr. Vela will be able to give us a number of how much. Mr. Muir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and committee members. So it is correct that the committee cannot vote to approve the item because the committee doesn't make those decisions. That's left up to the board, and the committee is less than a quorum anyway. But the committee could vote to recommend the item. Their recommendations could be made by the committee to the board. And it's just a recommendation. The board is not bound to accept the committee's recommendation. So.
Thank you. That will be then a motion. My
Yes.
motion is to recommend to the formal board for formal approval of this one item.
May I make it a comment?
Go ahead.
If we replace.
Thank you, Counselor.
If we replace the
Yes.
floor with a different kind of, we still have to put a floor in.
Yes.
It may not be the same kind of wood that we have here, like oak and all that, but we still have to do a floor before we put like tile or anything else. I mean, if not, we just got the exposed, beams. So
Okay.
We gotta consider that. And we're already working on that estimate to replace it with the same exact stuff. You know, there might be some areas in the floor that may be salvageable, but from what we see that, you know, the floor buckled and we got to it as Serpro came in there, like immediately started to dry the place up and all that, but it had happened in the middle of the night. Anyway, so.
Dr. Tijerina?
Thank you, Chair. Marisela Tijerina for the record. So just as a motion that's being recommended for tomorrow is simply, this is the first phase of the many phases we're gonna have pertaining to the chapel. So the very first thing we have to do is address the HVAC repairs. And then once the adjuster comes in, as Mr. Cepeda and Mr. Vela, there's gonna be a lot of more follow-ups that will include the floor, the walls, possibly mold, I mean, whatever the case may be, once the adjuster comes in. But for this agenda item is strictly the HVAC first, which we have to address, but there will definitely be a lot of follow-up. And yes, our intention is to keep, because it's a historical, is to keep it the way that it is.
Okay, so you rather wait for the motion, Judge, whenever it comes down to the floor? Because right now this is for the HVAC. Yes,
Very well. Thank you.
thank you, Dr. Tijerina. Go ahead, Mr. Cepeda.
Okay. The next item is the upsizing of the Cigarro Science Complex chiller water supply line from 4-inch to 6-inch. The pre-facilities master plan upgrade to the science complex consisted of 2 separate buildings, each one having their own supply or chiller water supply line. The facilities master plan project connected the 2 buildings. In doing this, approximately, like, I estimate about 49 square feet was added due to hallways connecting the 2 buildings and closed 2-story breezeway that was done, plus the new staff offices. This resulted in the 2nd floor hallway east and zone the student lounges. So we found out, we did a chill water flow study, and we found out that
Hold on, Mr. Cepeda. Can we,
what?
it's because we can't see the slide.
No?
Hold on.
Can you all see it now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Cepeda.
So as I was saying that the 2 buildings that were connected, and in doing so, they did hallways. There's a little layout of the 2nd floor, which is the issue here. And then there's student lounges, and there's a detail on those student lounges that they opened. They have an open area to the 1st floor. That it changes things a little bit. So we did a flow study, and the findings indicated that there was inadequate chiller water flow to that wing, because if you look at the chill water loop, it first goes through what used to be the Cigarro Labs, then goes to Lerma Peña, and then comes around, and then the big Cigarro Science building, before it was connected, was serviced by a 4-inch chill water line. I'm not a proponent of 4-inch chill water lines. The added cost between a 4-inch and a 6-inch is technically minimal, but the added flow you get is almost double. So, we're proposing that we change that, upsize it to 6 inch. And, like I said, the issue with the lounges is that, everybody knows that, heat rises. So one of the lounges is very close to the door, so you got people coming in and out of the doors, air rises, and that far, I guess, east wing is where we added offices for the staff, and also, well, we enclosed one of the second floor breezeway. So we added all the square footage, but we didn't address the issue of pure water coming in, supplying really there's only 3 air handlers in the mechanical rooms. I'll show you here's a schematic of the 2 combined buildings. The building at the top is the old Sinaloa labs. So you can see there's hallways connecting the thing, and in the circles, there is open, it's sort of there's student lounges in these kind of junctions, and they're open to the first floor. So, and the mechanical room on the left of the old science building has one on top of the other, 2 mechanical rooms with 2 air handlers on each floor. And then there's 1 mechanical room at the other end on the first floor. So the 4-inch chiller line comes in from that end and has to supply the whole wing, and the impact of the hallways and the issue with the heat rising. So, HVAC design is not a perfect science. Buildings are square, you got tiny ducts that blow air, and so we think that the flow study indicated that there was inadequate flow into the air handler there at the second floor. First it came in for the first floor, then it rises into the air handler on the second floor that takes care of that whole wing and the hallways. So we think that the solution is getting more flow into that air handler. And so that's the idea here. And I want to come back, but the cost of that is $252,900. So yeah, it's about 200. But I can't come back for some reason. Once it's kind of frozen in there. Yeah, it's 252,609. It involves about a dual exchange run from the heating off of the supply line that comes from the Peña to the library. And we've got enough pump capacity at the chiller plant to address this. So that's the proposal that outside the chiller line. And we're pretty certain that's what's going to kind of fix the issue that we've got here.
Dr. Maricel, sorry.
Dr. Tijerina, for the record, I was just going to mention that in your packet for Agenda 4, the proposal for train is there as well. And since you couldn't find the amount, I'm sorry, I was trying to help you out while the technical, but it is $252,609.55, and the proposal is in your packet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like I said, the HVAC design is not a perfect science, and sometimes things don't work. Like there's a lot of glass in the building too, and that whole wing, and then the little student lounges. They're a nice feature and everything, but the lounges are really close to the door, and it's all glass, and there are people walking in and out, or open door, they're talking, so that air, I'm saying, it affects that whole wing where the, where the actual, staff offices are. And that's where the complaints come from. And we tried all kinds of things, but we eventually figured out that this is one of the major problems. There's an additional square footage and the issue with traffic. So I personally, if I was a HVAC designer, wouldn't use, I come from pipeline, so I know about flow and lines, and we never used like 4-inch on a pipeline. We used like 6-inch and up, because the cost is not that different. So anyway, it wasn't addressed then, so we're proposing to address it now.
Any questions? No? No question?
I just have a question for Mr. Vela. Do we have the money?
That's a good one.
Good afternoon. Yes, Mr. Pena, actually, the funding for this project would be coming from the deferred maintenance fund that, if you remember, the board approved a resolution to transfer 20% of the annual savings into this fund. Based on the savings that we had last fiscal year, there will be about 2.4 million in the fund balance.
Okay.
So this would be one of the projects that we would be addressing from that fund balance. The other project that we're pending to address from that fund is the parking lot resurfacing project. We're currently working on modifying the RFP
Right.
to send it out. We did send out an RFP, but we only had one response, and it was unfortunately incomplete. So we'll have to reissue that RFP again.
And the reason I ask is that summer is coming up, and I know that building tends to be very hot, so
Yes.
how long will it take, Mr. Sabella, to get this, once it's approved, to complete this project? Do we have an estimate time?
Again, but barring any circumstances, 'cause we're gonna have to dig through an area that may have utilities and things, so there's be some handy. And then the complex thing of integrating it to the existing piping and the rafters and the whole thing. So 3 months. If we get going soon. I mean, we've done all of the preliminary thinking of how we're gonna do it and everything, so. Yeah, I would say we'd have to get going right away.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Zepeda. Item number 5, Mr. Vela, Mr. Pais.
The next item is, I have it here too, so we can just go through 6.
You want to, okay, we'll move up item 6, please, Mr. Vela and Mr. Zepeda.
Yeah, because I have it here, so.
Yes, good afternoon. Again, Cesar Vela, VP of Finance for the record. This next item is, we're going to be asking the board at the Thursday night meeting to give us approval to assign the P14 project back to the CMAR, Construction Manager at Risk project. Originally, back in 2015, the board had approved for the interior renovations of P14 to be done in-house by a physical plant. However, as we are working on this project with the Imaginarium, this is the building that will house the Imaginarium of South Texas. We encountered some issues that will cause some delays for the project. So we did approach Line Decker Construction, which is our CMAR of record for both phase 2 projects and phase 3 projects, to see if they were willing to help us out by overseeing the project. They have agreed to do that, and obviously they will be working with the college on allowing us to already approve some of the costs that we had already agreed with the subcontractors. So essentially, they will honor the cost of the subcontractors. The only item that we would probably need to cover would be the bond and the administration fee. Again, they're willing to work with the college to obviously reduce that fee. Again, we still don't have a Gmax. Obviously, the next step would be to work with them on setting up a Gmax. Again, the intent is to stay within the approved amount that was approved by the board, which was around, I believe it was 650,000 for this project. 480 coming from the college and 170 from the Imaginary.
Chair recognizes Mr. Delgado.
How much is the administrative fee gonna be?
At this point, we haven't negotiated that, or they haven't presented that, but the fee that we had already, I believe, well, under phase 3, I believe is 6%.
6% of
Yes,
whatever project is made.
of what they're charging for the project, yes.
And you feel comfortable with the target date of September 1st, Mr. Cepeda?
We've had a lot of conversation with the CMAR, Linedecker. And we presented some of the proposals we have from various subcontractors, and they're way lower than the norm that we've kind of twisted some arms and said, hey, this is, we're doing nonprofits, and like, for instance, we're getting equipment donated, we're getting labor donated, and so I've forwarded all those proposals to them. There's about 5 or 6 of them that are major ones, some of the subcontractors we're using. So they have agreed to kind of honor that and work with this as well. There's some stuff that we're going to be doing in-house, like painting, tape and float, things like that. So we're going to be integrated with them and keep the costs, hopefully, to the original cost that we, was approved.
But you feel comfortable with September 1st? It should be done by then.
Yes. Once we get somebody like an art, see, the issue, as I mentioned, is that we would have, to follow the rules and the whole thing, we would have had to bid out every sub,
Okay.
electrical, HVAC, everything, and that would have taken time. So we have the CMAR, he can just go in there and pick the contractors, put it all under the CMAR. And he also, he said that, but that they will reduce his fee. So
Okay.
probably the single out-of-pocket thing that we're gonna have to do is the bond. So.
Okay.
So, okay.
I'm sorry, Rusty has a question real quick. Go ahead, Mr. Muir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, board members and administration. So the issue about procuring these construction services is because back in 2015, the board had assigned the construction of this project to administration. Administration, in order to proceed, would have to competitively procure the various construction services with the subcontractors, and that would involve bidding out the projects, and it takes time and so forth. So you'd have to advertise in the paper, receive sealed bids, open up those bids, and then select the winning bid. And all that takes time. It's a legal process. It has to be followed. But by shifting the project to the CMAR, the administration is no longer involved in that. So legally, the construction manager at risk assumes the responsibility to comply with the procurement laws and competitively procure the construction work. And my understanding is that the plan that Linedecker would have would be to have some of the work be done by subcontractors, and they would competitively procure that and follow the Texas laws. I did speak myself personally with Gary Linedecker about that issue. He confirmed that, and the the benefit that the college has, that it doesn't have to go through that process itself, it shifts it to the CMAR. And then the CMAR in turn bears the liability risk, so that if a problem occurs with work that one of the subs performs, that's an issue that the CMAR is required to address, because again, CMAR is bearing the risk. So I think that's what you'll see, is the CMAR handling the competitive procurement.
So what you're trying to say, Counselor, is we're not gonna be violating any procurement laws by doing it that way.
Not if it's handled that way,
Okay.
correct, yeah, so the CMAR takes on the responsibility and competitively procures, and that's what Gary told me that he'd be doing.
Okay.
And he's done it a bunch of times, probably hundreds of times, with all the public works projects he's handled over the decades here in Laredo.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Tijerina?
Yes, Dr. Tijerina for the record, and the ideal is September 1st, but we also recognize there's been a lot of delays lately because of the supply chain, right? So we have also spoken to the Imaginarium that obviously when their lease is completely out, we will work with them of finding a temporary location in the meantime. So because we're not going to be offering, let's say, the dorms to our athletic department, there's plenty of, temporarily spaces they can move into, because certainly we wouldn't want our partner to be left, or this community children's museum, to be left out without having a plan, so we will work with them depending, but we hope it'll get done in September 1st. But with all our construction, there's been so many delays.
Well, correct me, they asked for an extension, right?
Correct,
And their extension ends,
September 1st.
okay. And
To my
is there-
understanding.
is there any possibility of maybe, I mean, of course, we could welcome them, great, but for them to be just going month by month, if we're actually close to the 90, 95, 98% of completion, to just maybe go by either a month or 2 months more, if we would need that. Have we discussed
I
that?
can speak to that because I'm on the board of the Imaginarium. We've kind of kept it secret because we don't know what they'll do. And they might just say, well, you got 30 days to get out of here. So it's been kind of low key, we've low keyed it. I mean, we've got an extension of 3 months to get us to September.
Okay,
And presumably, if we see that this is gonna be delayed, we might ask for another 3 months.
okay.
But this is hush hush. We haven't pulled the plug on the mall. We're definitely gonna come here. Just nobody needs to know except us.
Okay. Judge Martinez, Chair.
Thank you. I just want to find out, is the Imaginarium still at the mall, or they already have vacated?
No, it's not a mall.
They're still at the mall?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
In fact, another comment that I had is that by virtue of the knowledge that some people know that we're coming in, we've already gotten a major grant from Rio South and to work with students in the college. We're already getting ahead of the merger we're gonna be doing with the college. So it's gonna be very beneficial.
It's gonna be a lot of fun,
Yeah.
especially merging it with our science department over here.
Yeah, that too.
Thank you. Is that it? Okay. Item number 5, Mr. Vela and Mr. Pais.
Members of the board, this next item is to request approval from the board to reallocate the 7.5 million that had been part of the law enforcement training center project. We did receive official notification from the Department of Homeland Security that they're not going to be pursuing the long-term agreement with the college for the use of an indoor shooting range. So obviously, we have had internal meetings to revisit that project. We've met, had meetings with the police academy to see what would be the best use of an indoor shooting range if needed, right? Based on the number of days that is used by the police academy, they felt that the best use of that. The current location there at the indoor shooting range at the South Campus would be to convert it into a tactical training gym. So that is part of the recommendation that we're making at this point. And I would wanna just make the disclaimer that, again, this is right now a recommendation. It is subject to change, as you heard. One of the issues that we're having is the cost of the projects based on the availability of materials. So the proposal that we're bringing forward for consideration is to reallocate the 7.5 million that we have for that project. And what we're asking is that for the Lamar Bruni Vergara Environmental Center, add another $2 million to that project. Originally, we asked the board, and the board approved an allocation of 1.5 million. Based on the work that is needed in that center, the 1.5 million will not be enough to cover all the repairs that are needed. Right now, we do have the architect already working with staff and the engineers on coming up with an estimate. We've asked them to obviously not use the 1.5, use 3 million at this point. And just based on the discussions that we've had, he's trying to accommodate all the necessary items within those 3 million. The other project that we currently have pending is the diesel shop expansion project.
Okay, Mr. I have a quick question on that. So then we're doing away with the allocation of the 7.5. That will no longer take place.
We're redistributing those 7.5 that we had for the indoor shooting range into this listing of projects that we're presenting.
Okay, my concern is just, this is bond money, right?
Yes.
So this was supposed to be used a long time ago. So where are we at with being able to keep up our credit, and not affecting us by using this money? Because that's a huge concern for me, and that's good. I mean, that we're looking into projects that the colleges need, but where are we at with all of this to be able to spend it, because we have a timeline on it.
Yes, well, again, right now, the amount that we have available is the 20 million. We already have some projects that have been approved and identified there, that we have some funds already allocated to those projects. Included in those projects was the 7.5 million. Now, we know we're not moving forward. It's not feasible to continue with that project. So again, we are asking to reallocate the funds to actually to some already existing projects, which was the Lamar Bruni Vergara and the diesel shop expansion project. Now, as part of the process, we identified other areas where we have some needs. Again, going back to those two already projects that we're already working on, the Lamar Bruni Vergara and the diesel shop expansion, we have funds allocated. All we're asking is, okay, we need to allocate a little bit more.
And that's good. If we could, because I know Mr. Price has kept the, very informed on the diesel shop of how it's going. Can we add on the building committee meetings, the Lamar Bruni Vergara, being that we're looking at 3 million, how, phase it out, what exactly are we going to be doing with that one? And especially with the needs that they might need, and then, putting it in the committee so we could be able to be looking at the process and know where we're investing those 3 million.
Yes, we'll certainly add those to the building committee meetings. Right now, we're not at that point yet because they're still working through the plans. But as soon as the architect tells us, okay, we have already a design and the plan, we'll bring it forward to the committee to discuss and to review. I can tell you that, again, based on what we're seeing right now, we're having to constantly make adjustments or, again, just on the diesel shop expansion project, we allocated 2.3 million originally, and Homer, remind me, that was what, a year, 2 years ago when we said it? So that estimate was done 2 years ago. Obviously, it's gone out the window now with what we're seeing. An agenda item that we had for tomorrow's meeting was the approval of the Gmax. Now, we did receive the Gmax just last week. But unfortunately, it is way above what we had estimated. We had, like I said, originally, we had set aside 2 years ago, 2.3 million. Part of this process is saying, we're asking the board, okay, we're gonna need another 2 million to be able to address some of those components that are needed in that project. Well, right now, the Gmax came in at 6 million. So we're internally, we're gonna have meetings with staff and then obviously with the architects and the CMAR to see what we can do to bring that cost down. Again, we're gonna ask that we defer that item to the next board meeting because we're not ready to, again, to present that item yet. Again, we were not expecting it to come in at 6 million, obviously. We had expected that it was gonna be above the 4.3. I'm sorry, the 2.3 that had been originally allocated. But again, we were estimating another 2 million.
Is the increase because of everything that's been going up? Is that the reason why, Mr. Price?
Yes, I'm notified for the record, construction project manager. Yes, a big portion of that is the increase of the materials, the availability of materials right now. So that's impacting jobs, statewide, nationwide. And we're seeing the impact here with our projects. So we did make some adjustments, but we don't have enough money according to the number that they're discussing right now. We're still a little bit short. We could have an option of possibly cutting back on the scope and make a second phase to that particular facility. So that would be an option unless we realign some funds. But that's yet to be discussed with the architect and the general contractor. That's where we're at right now.
So we're way.
Yeah. Originally, we allocated some monies, knowing that we had to do something there. We got into the scope. The scope is quite a bit of work to meet their needs. That department, that program has always had a waiting list. So they're excited about the expansion, but due to the increase of cost lately here these couple of years, materials have increased and everybody's seeing that impact, statewide, nationwide. So it's something to discuss a little bit in detail and look at the scope of work and see if we rather cut it back a little bit and have a second phase, or just some numbers to go ahead and meet the number that the contractor has for us at this time.
Chair recognizes President Zabala.
Question. I keep hearing 2 years ago this was approved. What is the delay? Why is it taking us 2 years has the project been ongoing, or we just approved it and we didn't do anything?
The estimates were developed 2 years ago, and then obviously, we've been working on the scope of the project. And unfortunately, yes, it has taken us this long to
Why?
address this.
Why?
Um,
Because now it's gonna cost us triple because of the pandemic and everything else that has happened, but what delayed it 2 years ago?
Yeah, well, the pandemic has had some impact on the alignment of some of these projects. We did get into really a detailed scope of work for the facility to find out exactly what they needed. We went through schematics. The architect does have a set of plans prepared for us already. The contractor has it in hand, and that's how we have our number right now. So with the number that they've issued, we do have a very hard number that we need to review and discuss now. But this project is not a small project, it's rather large. So we've been working on the project. It has not been sitting in the file. We've been working these couple of years on that particular project and finally get a cost to bring to the board. So that's where we're at right now.
Thank
Um,
you.
Going with Mr. Perez saying, you know, sad that it's 2 years, but that's the concern that I guess we all have, that it's been on the books and it's with bond money. And we have a timeline that when we need to spend it, we need to be, we need to be on top of this and move on it, and I hope this gets resolved hopefully by the next board meeting, so we can put it and we can go ahead and have it ready with hopefully a solid number, and, Mr. Redna, go back to the books, look at where we could possibly look for some money, but then also, not cutting, but, working with the architects to seeing where we could do, or like Mr. Pai said, if we would have to do a second phase, because I don't know, I do know that this project is very, how would I say it? It intrigues a lot of students, it brings in a lot of students. So I don't know if the best thing to do is to cut back a lot to be able to hurt it in the future, sorry. But, I guess we need to look at it and revise it. And like Mr. Pena said, it's 2 years, so we need to put this item on the agenda for approval, and we need to run with it as soon as possible.
And if I may add, Mr. Melissa Tijerina, for the record, in instruction, we haven't seen the listing or the proposal by the architects, and most of the time, functionality, safety comes first, and any aesthetic, those are the things that we're gonna have to wipe out. So until we see what is being proposed, and that's where instruction can help with the scratching out, certain things from the list that don't pertain to functionality. But I don't know. We have not seen that listing of what could possibly be striked out. Or maybe not. I mean, I don't know. But we'll get you that
You'll look
response.
at that by the next board meeting, right?
Yes, sir, by the March meeting. Again, right now, we would, scheduling meetings, obviously internally with staff to review the plan. Like Dr. Tejeda mentioned, obviously when the plans were developed, there was input from some of those units that are housed in that area, and obviously there were requests that were made, and so now we're at a point where, okay, well, we got a budget that we need to work with. As Mr. Pais mentioned, we can either do some of those items as alternates and see if there's additional funding that we can maybe allocate to the project, or like Dr. Tejeda mentioned, let's look and see, okay, is this functional or is this a want? And cut and try to bring that project down to a manageable amount.
Okay. Well, we gotta look at it by next month for sure. Okay. Anything else? Any questions? No? Thank you. Item number 7, Mr. Vela.
Yes, this is the item, I'm sorry, this is the item that we're gonna be asking that we defer to the March meeting. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we did receive a Gmax for the project, but it's.
What was the Gmax on it?
6.5 million?
I know, but it was 6.5?
6.5 million.
And we had how much on it?
We had 2.3 million, and now we're asking that the board reallocate part of the 7.5. We're asking for another 2 million, so we're now looking at 4.3 million.
Okay.
So we gotta work and try to see if we can bring it down to the 4.3.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there a motion? The motion, second, on favor? Thank you. Motion approved. See, it's 12:53, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you.